Welcome to Assessing Learners Part 4. Let's wrap up the Assessing Learners course by learning how to build a pool and reuse questions and tests, deploy and grade tests, and talk about our best practices for online test taking. A pool is a collection of questions that you can use to populate other tests. To create a pool, you'll head back to Tests, Surveys, and Pools under Course Tools, and then select Pools. Next, we'll click Build Pool. You'll have to give it a name. We will call ours Sample Pool. Then, enter a description if you so choose. You can also add instructions, but this isn't really necessary as no student will see this as a test. You'll click Submit, and now we'll be on the pool canvas. Here you are able to create the exact same questions that you can create in a test. These will just sit and wait in the pool until you decide to use them in another test. I'll go ahead and add some questions to our pool so that we can then reuse questions from this pool in our sample exam. Now that I've got some questions in my pool, I'd like to add them to the test that we built in the last video. So I'll click Tests, Surveys, and Pools, go back to Tests, and then using the drop-down menu to the right of Sample Exam, I'll click Edit. From here, I'll select Reuse Question. We have three different options: Create Question Set, Create Random Block, or Find Questions. Creating a question set will allow you to pick through and choose specific questions from your pools or other tests. A random block will pull a number that you specify of questions from another pool or test. Find Questions will allow you to browse other pools and tests to choose what questions you'd like to use. I'll go with Find Questions. From here, we can choose the sample pool and then choose the questions that we'd like to import into our test. We then click Submit, and we will see that the number of questions and the total points has changed. Now that our test is complete, we need to deploy it so that students can take it. We'll go into our content area of our course, hover over Assessments, and click on Tests. From here, we will choose the sample exam we just created and click Submit. This takes us to the test options screen. We can change the name of the test. We can also edit the description and decide if we'd like to show the test description to students before they take the test. We can also show the instructions that we entered when we first created the test. You have the option to open the test in a new window. Under Test Availability, you'll choose whether or not to make the link available, to add a new announcement for the test, and to set if the test is going to allow for multiple attempts. If you do allow for multiple attempts, you're able to choose which attempt is graded using the last attempt, the highest grade, the lowest grade, the first graded attempt, or an average of the graded attempts. If you turn on Forced Completion, the test will have to be completed in one sitting, so the student cannot save and come back. If you set a timer, you can set an expected completion time. Selecting this option also records the completion time for this test. Students will see the timer option before they begin the test. If you set a timer, do not use Forced Completion. We have encountered several errors with this combination and therefore recommend that you do not use these two together. On Display After and Display Until, you'll choose when the link to the test is available. If you set these options, it does not constitute a due date, but it does change when the students can see the test. If you select to add a password, the student will have to enter this password before they can actually take the test. Test Availability Exceptions is a very useful tool that will allow you to change certain test settings for users of your course. Click to add a user or group, select a student that you would like to add an exception for, and click Submit. Here we can change the number of attempts the student will have and make adjustments to the availability of the test. If we go back to our settings and turn on the timer, we will see that we can now adjust the amount of time the student will have to complete the test. To remove the student, click the X and then click OK. Here you can set a due date and choose to not allow the students to start the test if the due date has passed. Under Self-Assessment Options, if this test is a self-assessment, Choose to include or hide the scores in the Grade Center. If the instructor decides to include the test in the Grade Center after it is hidden, all prior attempts will be deleted. Make sure to choose wisely. Under Show Test Results and Feedback to Students, the option set test results and feedback to be available to students after they complete the test. You can set up 2 rules to show results and feedback. Rules occur based on the events selected. Each rule specifies when and what to show students, such as scores, answers, and feedback for each question. Under Test Presentation, you can choose to display the test all at once or one at a time. If you choose to set the test to one at a time, you can also prohibit backtracking, meaning a student cannot go back to a previous question. You can also have the option to randomize the order in which the questions are displayed to the students. Once you have your test options set the way you'd like them, click Submit, and at the bottom of our content area, we'll see that the sample exam is now available. Now let's take a look at how to grade a test. If your test has anything subjective on it, such as a short answer or essay, you'll have to go in and grade those questions to complete the student's grading process. If it's purely objective questions, Blackboard will grade the test for you. In order to interact with those subjective questions, we will head into the full Grade Center, and then we will see that we have, under Sample Exam, 1 attempt to grade. Click on the drop-down arrow to access the attempt in order to begin grading it. Now that we're in here, let's take a look at the test information. Sometimes test information defaults to close the bar. All you have to do is click the double arrow to the left of it to open. Here you'll see the current grade, the status, the score, how long it took them to take the test, and the start date. To the right of the start date, we will find the test access log. Clicking the test access log will cause a pop-up telling you exactly when the student started the test and how long it took them to save each question. This could be a useful tool if, say, you are investigating possible academic dishonesty, or if a student had an issue taking a test, you might consider giving them another shot. Click to close the test access log. Directly below, you will see there is a Clear Attempt and Edit Test button. If, per se, you had entered a question incorrectly or an answer to a question incorrectly, and you had gotten a bunch of emails about it, clicking on the Edit the Test button would bring you back to the test canvas and would let you fix that question. Once you are done editing the question, click Save and Update Attempts. Blackboard will automatically regrade all of the attempts. Click OK to return to the test submission. Now let's grade some of the subjective questions that were on this particular exam. As we scroll down, you'll see the score that the student got on each particular question. We'll navigate to the short answer question. The given answer will display directly beneath it. It looks good, so we will go ahead and give it 5 points, and then we can enter any feedback. The student will be able to see this when they review the test in their My Grades section. You are able to give feedback and notes on the attempt, give feedback to the learner, which they can see, and grading notes, which will stay private. After you've completed those to your satisfaction, click Submit and the student's grade is registered in the gradebook. And now to wrap up the Assessing Learners course. Let's go over our online test tips. First, system requirements. We highly recommend that students utilize Mozilla Firefox or Google's Chrome to take tests in Blackboard as opposed to Microsoft's Internet Explorer. This provides a far more reliable experience. Next, we ask that you encourage students to log out between sessions of Blackboard. Leaving open sessions on one computer and then going to another one can sometimes cause errors. When it comes to time frame, we recommend a reasonable time frame for students to take the test, and it is recommended that you keep exams under an hour. When giving long exams, consider breaking it up into multiple shorter sections. Last but not least, remember, do not use the timer and forced completion together. We do find that this causes several errors in Blackboard, and it's not worth the trouble. If you decide to use forced completion and only give the student one attempt, you might run into issues as well, so you might have to clear the test and make an exception. This concludes our Blackboard Learn Assessing Learners course. To complete the course, take the final quiz that appears. You'll need 100% in order for the course to be considered complete. But don't worry, you'll have as many chances as you need.